Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope you'll indulge me and let me begin with a little story that's going to start with once upon a time. So once upon a time, there lived a curious techie who loved to explore cyberspace. As he ventured into the depths of the internet, he discovered various vulnerabilities in the systems used by people, companies, and even the government. Being a responsible citizen, he alerted the system owners about these weaknesses. But to his surprise, he found himself branded a criminal with charges laid against him for his well-intentioned actions. Now, why do I tell you this? Because once upon a time was not that long ago, and this is a true story. It happened in just 2014. This poor guy was criminally charged. He was dragged in to be tried for his actions. He has a criminal record now, and it can't be expunged, just for doing the right thing. So fast forward 10 years, just last year, 2024. Suddenly, the government is asking ethical hackers to give it a go. Come on, try and attack us without any fear of criminal prosecution whatsoever. Well, there are some provisos with it. My name is Susan Bushe, and I was asked by my boss, the head of our cyber emergency response team, part of CERT, we're also the CCERT network within Belgium, to organize a Hack the Government event in 2024. And this is how I became the project manager in an event with the only briefing that was given to me was try and get these ethical hackers to find vulnerabilities in federal government digital assets. Just to be clear, I understand technology, but I am not a programmer, I am not a hacker, nor am I someone with any technical expertise. I am, however, part of an amazingly skilled and talented team who I trusted completely to handle the tricky bits. I made sure I listened to what they wanted and kept the focus on those needs. Sadly, my colleague, Johan Caluwe, is unable to be here today due to an emergency. However, he is also a member of the CERT team. He is a cybersecurity expert, and his technical expertise and skill has made him quite a celebrity within the Belgian ethical hacking market. I know this because I have seen him interacting with hackers at different events, and they behave like as though they're meeting the Pope for the first time. He is a guest professor at one of our prestigious universities in Belgium, and he is also an experienced bug bounty and ethical hacker. His day job is with our tech research group within CERT, and he spent days and nights getting everything ready and scoping this project, but luckily he's kept me in the loop the entire way. So there we go with that. So today, the outline of this particular presentation is that we need to go back in time to understand. So we need to go back to the soup to understand what happened in the beginning. I presume that there is going to be an opportunity to ask questions. I don't mind taking questions during the session if it's appropriate or at the end. So I'm not sure there's a moderator to go through every question thoroughly, but there we go. We'll give it a go. I've never done something from 3,000 kilometers away, so here we are. So just to be clear, because I know this can sometimes be tricky, exactly which government was being hacked. So you are based right here currently, and I am going to actually bring you over to be with me in Belgium. Now, you need to leave where you are and start to understand what Belgium is about to give you a little bit of insight as to how we were able to make Hack the Government happen. The stereotype of Belgium is chocolate, beer, potentially battlegrounds, capital of the EU, and some of you might even know we have 3 official languages, none of which are English. We have German, we have French, and we have Dutch, but it's known as Flemish in country. So a little bit more about Belgium, some other lesser things that people know. And we have some bizarre Guinness Book of World Records. We have some strange traits in our own country, which is helpful to understand as to how people behave with something like this. So we went the longest time, a whopping 541 days without a government in peacetime. We are part of the lowlands. However, we have the most climbing World Cup victories by a woman, which is kind of ironic. We are the birthplace of the Smurfs, the saxophone. One of our people in our population has the largest collection of chopsticks, for example. The first atlas was printed by a Belgian. We possess the world's longest tram route. We even have the most stolen painting called The Adoration of the Mystic Lamb. For those of you who are art enthusiasts in the audience, it's a very significant piece. The Belgians managed to sell a pigeon, it's not good, a pigeon for 1.6 million euros. That's roughly 1.8 million US dollars, I believe. We have found the largest hoard of buried coins, 150,000 penny-sized silver coins from the mid-13th century. We're known for our waffles and made it the largest stack ever in the world. We had a competition to who could throw a mobile phone the farthest, and we possess that title as well. We're the producers of the world's best billiard balls. And Belgium was the first European country to institutionalize and promote ethical hacking. And finally, Belgium holds the dubious Guinness World Record honor of having the most people to deliberately download a computer virus in an experiment by the Belgian IT expert Didier Stevens. He did it in 2007. Some 409 people willingly and deliberately downloaded a virus onto their computer. Stevens had been running a campaign for 6 months that offered users a free virus via the slogan, "Is your PC virus free? Get it infected here." And although we know better, I like to think this is probably this reason that the Center for Cybersecurity Belgium exists. It's to protect people like him, or from him. Excuse me, I just need some water. Belgium is not an old country like our neighbors. We are less than 200 years old, and to put this into perspective, the US has about 250 years on us. We are a constitutional monarchy, which means we have a prime minister and our very own king, and our legal system is based on Napoleonic Code, and that might be significant for some of the lawyers who might be in the audience. So, how we moved cyber outlaws to be cyber guardians. Well, that same year that techie was being criminally charged, 2014, the Center for Cybersecurity Belgium was created through the King's Royal Decree, reporting directly to the Office of the Prime Minister. We need to step back in time to understand the context of Hack the Government, the foundations, to meet our go-live date on Wednesday, the 13th of November, 2024 at 9 o'clock, had a lot that led up to that point. So, just to recap before we move on, you know that Belgium is in the heart of Europe. You know how society and citizens, you will learn about how society and our citizens go from vilifying hackers to tolerating them and even encouraging them, which is a really important step for accepting ethical hacking in your country. So we're going to climb the proverbial mountain, and it's got to be proverbial because we don't have any here. First, what you need is someone who has the motivation to make a change. And in this case, Miguel de Breker, our general director of the CCB, and several key members of his team, such as our lawyer and the head of the cyber emergency response team, were behind that 100%. We also had a pretty vociferous ethical hacking group. They were very willing to go lobbying and create sensations in the press. But there were also many more people who were behind it as well. So to make such a societal shift, you need people with the determination, the drive, and the belief that they can get that society to change, to get people to take that first step up the mountain. The goal that Miguel had was to make Belgium one of the least vulnerable countries in Europe and build a strong cybersecurity workforce. He wanted to develop future talent. He wanted to enhance crisis preparedness, and he wanted to strengthen Belgium's cyber resilience. They were lofty goals. Before we actually managed to enable ethical hackers to operate in Belgium, bug bounty platforms were starting to take traction. Data protection became completely unavoidable within the EU because we had the implementation of the GDPR, which is the EU's General Data Protection Regulation, which was passed in 2018. Several high-profile companies within Belgium had significant data breaches, and so they started to turn to independent hackers for help. But what kind of procedure could you have for these hackers? It was still a criminal action to hack in Belgium. So they tried to do incentives like monetary rewards because they wanted to provide themselves with hacker-powered security. The US was much more mature at this point than Europe, and especially than Belgium. Belgium is quite a conservative country in most part, but quirky. So we were still at the very early stages at that point. The first milestone for Hack the Government was, we thought, we need to legally protect those hackers. So we need to shift society to being able to accept ethical hackers, and at the same time, we also need to legally protect them. And it's not as easy as going, hey, just change the law, especially with something like Napoleonic Code. It's a web of complexity that needs to be very carefully considered due to ramifications that can pop up elsewhere. So if you pull a thread, it could very well be quite horrible at the other end of it. So how do we even begin? Well, I interviewed our key contributor to creating the change and get him to explain how he got the start up the path of this hill. So I asked him the question, how did you find the correct connection point in the law where it could be adjusted for ethical hackers? His clip has subtitles, so it should help in case you don't fully get his accent. Here we go.
Susan, just so you know, we're not getting the audio from the video. We are able to see the transcription, however.
Oh, sorry about that. Well, that was an error on my part. Sorry about that, guys, but it's only this video and I have one Mother Short one. Both of them have subtitles. I do apologize. I'm glad I put subtitles on now. Okay, so on 15th of February 2023, the new whistleblower law legalized ethical hacking, even for cases where the hacked entity did not consent to it. This does not mean that the doors were thrown open for anyone to enter, because that would be quite disingenuous. Ethical hackers had to be incredibly scrupulous about how they behaved to be able to be protected by us against being criminally charged. So, how would they do it? They have four main conditions that they have to follow in the law as it was first passed. There has to be proof that there was no intent to cause harm or obtain illegitimate benefits with their activities. And just to keep in mind, extortion is still illegal, which could be tempting, I suppose. The second was they had to report any uncovered cybersecurity vulnerability as soon as possible to the CCB and to the organization that was being investigated. The third one was that they were not allowed to go any further than absolutely necessary and proportionate. This has been quite a sticking point within our law because it's a little bit tricky to determine when something is necessary and proportionate. But if they cause damage, there is civil action that can still be taken against them, and we cannot protect them from civil action. They are not allowed to have any information disclosure unless the CCB has given them authorization. This has also proved to be a rather tricky one over time because some of the ethical hackers believe that those vulnerabilities should be fixed much more quickly than maybe the CCB would pressure them to do so. And if they were able to go to the press, they could potentially increase that pressure on that organization. However, it's only been one or two issues so far that we've encountered with that. The law, just so everybody knows, you can't just go out and start hacking, only applies in Belgium. And it's really a case of when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So when you're in Belgium, you're more. The proposals for amending this law is to also protect people from other European Union nation countries when they're actually hacking an organization or a system that resides within Belgium. All the time, the hacker must respect the GDPR and the data privacy laws. So, one milestone achieved. We managed to get that law passed, and we managed to do it because the EU insisted that the whistleblower law had to be transposed into law of every nation. So we were one of the first to do this. So let's get to the next point. On the 15th of February, 2023, as I said, the law was implemented. It gave legal protection. It had a procedure to follow if there was no CVD policy by the organization that was being investigated. But how do you have that protection in reality? How was it actually applied in our environment? Well, firstly, you had 24 hours when you found a possible vulnerability to give us a simplified notification. You had to notify the CCB, and if the organization did not have a CVD policy, you also then had to notify that organization just generally and not through the CVD process. Secondly, within 72 hours, a complete notification must follow the procedure, which is detailed on our website. If you don't do a complete one, we are incapable of protecting them from criminal action against them. And these deadlines are important. Failure does mean that some ethical hackers have had charges placed against them. So how do we educate the very people we want to protect? The media coverage helped, but we also created a fantastic t-shirt for critical vulnerabilities because we're the government, we're not allowed to give money. We also provided them with a personal letter signed by Miguel de Breker, our Director General of the CCB. And this is what our typical criminal used to look like. This is our criminal from the 2014 I was telling you the story about. His criminal record is listed on your right, in that frame on your right. And the congratulations letter from Miguel is on the left. His t-shirt reads in a programming code kind of way, and you might not be able to make it out so well, so I can read it out to you if you like. So that's, while in Belgium, do have a beer, hack ethically, find bugs gov asset, report to CCB, done. CCB realized that if we wanted to secure our society, hackers are essential. That meant that we needed to do things like acknowledge their talent, appreciate their effort, celebrate their findings, and help with creating the shift from villain to a valued member of society. And we really wanted to start concentrating on community building within the ethical hacking arena. So the next point along our journey, after we had almost operationalized it completely, it leads us to how to implement it and operationalize that actual reporting. So we get to the next spot. So we planned for the new law. We figured out how to create working and an effective system. But the responsibility to do that went to Jean-Luc Peters, the head of the cyber emergency response team. It's my boss. Jean-Luc never lost sight of implementing the necessary procedures, of ensuring that legalities were abided by, while juggling the capabilities for triaging, researching, and understanding the submitted reports. He has a really sharp eye on building an ecosystem. So I asked Jean-Luc about this, and here's what he had to say. And I apologize, but I don't know how to get the speaker to work through my computer. So there you go. CCB has a dedicated technical research team within Jean-Luc's CERT department. They have exceptional talent. The range and the depth of knowledge that they have was core to being able to help build that community. They would be the ones who would triage all of the vulnerability reports submitted. They would have to liaise with the ethical hacker and the organization involved and try and, in some cases, temper some backlash that would come from an organization that had been hacked, which all of this built trust and credibility within the ethical hacking community. It doesn't hurt that Johan is also an ethical hacker, so he's our lead for the triage team. We had quite a few reports coming in. We had more and more T-shirt awards being sent. So CCB decided at that point they were going to sponsor a high-profile hacker conference called BruCon to showcase the safe harbor law. Let me see, for those who have never heard of BruCon, I have a little thing about what they are, because BruCon is quite a prestigious hacking, not ethical hacking, just hacking event that has been held in Belgium for at least 15 years. It started in Brussels, which is why it's called BruCon, but it's only been held there once a year. It's quite the misnomer. It's held in a small village not too far from us. So let me see. Here we go. It's an annual security and hacker conference for, and I quote, persons who delight in having an intimate understanding of the internal workings of a system, computers, and computer networks in particular. So we decided to do the sponsorship there, and we decided to showcase what this new law had created, which is basically now nicknamed a safe harbor law. So at this point, enter me as the project manager for this. I was asked to manage our presence at BruCon. The request came around the first quarter of 2024, so about a year ago. And that even at that time, just after I took over that role, there was talk of hosting a Hack the Government, but I kind of poo-pooed it. I thought it was a crazy idea at the time. So we're going to go to the penultimate step along our path upwards. I picked out the CCB sponsorship of BruCon as the penultimate stop on our climb because it is an easy focal point around which a lot of activity was occurring. For those who'd never heard of it, you know, it was quite illuminating for them when they arrived at the conference and discovered that Belgium actually had a safe harbor law for them. BruCon attracts all sorts of hackers, including our own from our own organization. They warn you, you have to secure your own data. They give you a lovely badge that looks like this. And my team, within, well, probably the first 5 or 6 minutes, oh, my battery is dead on it. Oh, no, here we go. I will give you a little look as to how it went. They went and hacked the badge within minutes, making it look like the Matrix. Don't know if you can see that very well. And it has CCB on it, and every so often it glitches to say CERT, which is the group that we pretend to belong to. So nothing is safe in BruCon. You do not want to connect to any Wi-Fi. You do not want to leave your device lying around. They, in the past, used to have a wall of shame, so they would show where everybody was going. So it does attract quite a wide range of people. You could be sitting beside a black hat hacker on one side and a white hat hacker on the other. You just never know. And this is where they come to find new and interesting techniques. It has become so famous that people from Japan also make a point to come and attend it. Getting tickets to it is like buying tickets to a Taylor Swift concert, though, because it sells out in seconds and they only have capacity for 600 people there. We did think that we might be able to do the Hack the Government hackathon actually at BruCon. However, BruCon has a capture the flag competition that always operates there, and we thought that we would actually be stepping on people's toes, and we didn't really want to do that. So it became clear that we needed to run it as a side event to BruCon itself. So when we were there, we decided to have one clear and single message that wouldn't get diluted, since it was one of the first times that CCB had been there as a sponsor in over a decade. Step 1, find a bug. Step 2, report a bug. We even created some swag for them, which you can possibly see here. We have a little mug and it tells them exactly how they should report their vulnerability and so on. We provided free coffee, free tea, and some smoothies to be able to fill up their mugs. And we invited our guests, we invited some special guests of honor and our invitation to all of those who had been awarded a T-shirt since the law had been invoked in the first place. Our stand, it was quite fascinating to watch the people who attended this. Our stand became their safe place. Because we had invited these people, they would circle back around to us if they were starting to feel insecure. We also had Johan Caluwe accepted as a CCB speaker. Sadly enough, like I said, he was not able to be here with us today. And his skill as a hacker is quite unparalleled because of the fact that he focuses on specifically API hacking. His knowledge and research skills are quite legendary. So Hack the Government got announced at the end of his presentation. He was one of the plenary speakers. The call to action was, please come and sign up at our stand and we will give you more information about it. And before we actually attended the conference, we had to figure out, how do we ask these people to register their interest? I mean, they're hackers. Are Google Forms appropriate? I mean, we have to be really careful because we can't allow personally identifiable information to leak. So a colleague of mine suggested a method that would respect personally identifiable information from leaking, and it would be air-gapped, which is really quite fascinating. He suggested this, a typewriter, which is actually really quite funny because a lot of people are quite young and have never seen a manual typewriter before in their lives. And I'm not sure if the screen can be read particularly well, but hackers can't resist trying. They actually did a failed SQL injection on our air-gapped system here. We used a separate sheet of paper for every single person who registered their interest. We ensured that they gave us their first and last name in uppercase, because sometimes last names can be tricky, plus their email address. And that sign up was incredible. And it showed us that we had at least interest from ethical hackers, because we didn't have any money. We didn't have any prize hook. We only gave them the unique chance to hack high-profile federal government assets. It was the only thing that we could offer with this. And the government would never be able to give money. So our path to the pinnacle was not quite as straightforward as it shows on this slide. We have to have time to build our community. The community has to come first before you can start to offer anything such as a live hacking event. BrewCon helped. We knew that the hackers were keen. We knew that they were looking for some kind of a community. And at the top, at the summit, at the peak, at the pinnacle, the foundations had finally been laid. Everything was in place to be able to begin with being able to offer something such as hacking a government. The societal shift had helped. The law had helped a lot. It got a lot of coverage in our country in multiple languages. We had the process now in place that was needed for protection of ethical hackers legally. We were beginning to build our ecosystem of ethical hackers, and we have arrived at the top. So now, how do we actually hack the government? Because the top was not the end, sorry. The path to climb before organizing the event was what we have just gone through. So now we're coming to, how did we actually do this? We had a little bit of a straw poll within our organization, and most of them agree that a live hacking event is the ultimate in security testing. So we've gone through the soup. We're now onto the main course. We're going to look at the meat and potatoes between the soup and the nuts of this meal. How did we convince 3 other federal organizations to participate? The stakeholders for Hack the Government included the CCB as the host and organizer, the ethical hacking community in Belgium, and the targets. So CCB had been engaging, I get to understand this part as well, but CCB isn't doing this in a vacuum. So we had been engaging the population over the past 10 years. We were supporting students via cybersecurity challenges. We offered internships to cybersecurity students. And some of our employees even teach as guest professors. Quite a few of them do. Our team in CERT manage and coach a student team called the Red Demons and enter them into an annual European cybersecurity competition. We have quite a few public contact points. We have something which we call Safe on Web. It's a system where you can report spam and phishing, and this way we can build a map of what criminal activity is going on in the digital world within Belgium. We're one of the few countries that do this. We're starting to help other nations within the EU, at any rate, build the same kind of system. Plus, we have education campaigns for all Belgians. Our most recent one has been to make sure you turn on two-factor authentication. We had some of our team get filmed driving into this village. It's the smallest village in Belgium. It has 71 residents. And what they did in a day was they went through and they helped every single person who lived there to enable two-factor authentication on all their devices. So they're now considered to be the safest cybersecurity place in Belgium. But Hack the Government definitely did not happen in a bubble. So what we did was we needed to try and encourage them to participate, especially our poor guy with the criminal record. We have more than one with a criminal record. Don't resent us. Please come and help us. So we basically made a declaration of come and show us what you can do. We asked for their help, but we couldn't offer anything in return other than the fact that maybe they'd have a good time. Integrity, which is a company that offers bug bounty platforms within Belgium and worldwide, but they're actually a Belgian-based company, also helped us. So what they did was they provided us with the platform so that we could run this event. Their input about how to do it was completely invaluable for us. Otherwise, we'd have had to learn the hard way, and we probably never would have got off the launch pad. They taught us things like communication is essential, especially with all of your ethical hackers. They recommended using Discord. Not optimal, but that wisdom saved us a lot. I do work with a team of quite young guys, though, and setting up the Discord server landed on me because most of them, while they wear young suits, are actually boomers deep down inside and not very technologically proficient for that. They also, Integrity taught us about the psychology of scope releases. It's like watching all these TV shows where they, you get to find out what the next thing is, but you got to wait until a few days later. By being able to have scope released in intervals, it means that you have more eyes on the target, you have more contact points with your hackers, you're able to keep the engagement because you're able to have a reason to be able to talk with them on a regular basis. Also, the psychology of finding leads and bugs in the first hours was critical. So some of our guys even went out and had a look prior to the event going live in case they needed to give anybody a little bit of a boost. We were really scared. Would they find anything? The other thing that you need to be careful about is not having some kind of profile defined about what an ethical hacker looks like, behaves like, or does. Not everybody has the same approach or sees the same things. So we didn't have any defined profile. We did have some rules as to how we wanted to attract people, but that was not one of them. We had to end up rewriting a lot of stereotypes, even internally. Some of our own people had quite a bit of stereotyping about what they thought an ethical hacker would respond to or how they would behave. But when we asked for the help, they responded in quite significant form. So for this part, never underestimate the knowledge and the motivation and the experience in your general population. You'd be really surprised where some of those gems can suddenly come out from. And for us, this was one of the single most important aspects to creating the magic that we ended up having with our event. Sadly enough, of course, you got to practice what you preach. You have to lead by example. So CCB had to put in our own assets into the scope. And because our whole reason for being is cybersecurity, we had to increase the rating of a validated vulnerability against us. So if you submitted a report that was assessed as low, you got it bumped up to medium, and medium got bumped up to high, and you get the idea. And this has impact on your leaderboard table. So, and Integrity was giving people who were using the platform reputation points. So this was an important one. However, some of our people in the organization found it a scary thing that we were laying ourselves bare, which of course hackers can do to us anytime because we have this law in place that you can hack anything. Potentially, we could have run this whole event without even asking the federal agencies if they wanted to give us some scopes, but we didn't. We decided that we were going to involve them in the process completely. However, this experience of opening ourselves up to being hacked gave us insight for how we could address potential objections that the other organizations have who are not quite as far along the process as the lead of cybersecurity in Belgium. So how do you foster this innovation? We needed diversity with different motivations. We had to allow freedom of opinions and suggestions and ideas. We did try and look for common factors, and we had narrowed it down to what we thought were 3 reasons why an ethical hacker would be interested. We have the earners, of course, the people who are transactional, who are trophy hunters. But those earners, we figured even if they couldn't get money, they could have bragging rights because we were going to crown them the government ethical hacker of 2024. You have some professionals. We weren't sure if we would be able to get them because every poster that these guys end up with behind them is a significant amount of money normally, and we weren't able to offer any cash at all. You have people who maybe collect swag, so we produce swag. We have the learners. We decided that we were going to reserve seats for students, for advanced researchers, for people who were looking to expand their skill sets and who were curious. And then the third group were idealistic. We wanted to appeal to their patriotism, to their altruism, that they were actually helping keep Belgium safe and their neighbors and their friends and their family. We did make the event invitation only, but it was only because of the fact that we decided that we would only allow for this first rendition of the event to be for Belgian citizens only, and we needed to do an ID check. So it had to be invitation only. But that seems to have had a good impact for us in the fact that a lot of people had a real sense of honor for the fact that they had been invited to a prestigious closed event. Be sure you know your rules. Ours were 50 people maximum. We didn't think our triage team could handle more than that, and we did all the triaging. The bug bounty platform did not help us with that. We had to have Belgian citizens. We had to have a proper ID check. We wanted a mix of the professionals and students. As I said, we first started that we thought we would have 20 professionals and 30 students, and ironically, we ended up half-half. We wanted to make it all about the hackers. And this is where I say set firm boundaries, because I had so many management people coming to me saying, oh, you've got to make it about this target. Oh, you've got to make it about the head of this department and so on. You need to, have them in the mix. And we had to beat a lot of people off with a stick. Stick with your boundaries completely. This is easy to say. So what I suggest you do to try and stay on point, and this is just some of my experience, is create a playbook, create an event script, and create a timeline. And you need to make it so you have an elevator pitch. My elevator pitch was this program is created to celebrate the Belgian safe harbor law for ethical hackers and researchers. So this isn't about the targets. This is about the ethical hackers and researchers being able to use this law to be able to go out and hack. And if anyone offers you help, accept it. You're going to need it. It's a really big job. So it took 5 months of discussions to get targets to agree to be a target. Agreement from the top is essential, and they're usually the hardest ones to shift when you want to do something like this, especially from a government, especially from a federal government like ours, which is quite slow to move. As you saw, we couldn't form one for 541 days. So I didn't have one signed up until the end of September. Our targets did include 4 federal public services in the end, because that first one, and ourselves, nobody considered us as being important kingpin in this. We had one really important federal public service who signed up to it. And one of the reasons was because I took him out for dinner. These people were, or these organizations are all high profile in the mass market. So we have one which is called BOSA. They're responsible for policy and support of the government and the population. We have the group that are responsible for all of the medicines and health products for both humans and for animals within Belgium. So they're responsible for pharmacies, for doctors receiving things, for drugs being approved, and so on. And the third group we had was, I'm not going to give you the initials because it won't mean anything to you, but they were responsible for the annual vacation entitlements for independent workers. They have a bit more to do with that, but that's the area that they got us to concentrate on. And of course, us, we put our own assets on the line, especially safeonweb.be. Convincing the application owners wasn't easy. Their main concern was reputation. They had 4 main concerns. Their first main concern was reputation. What's going to happen when bugs are found? So we told them that the results are completely confidential. And our intention is for every vulnerability that was found, we would celebrate it. I mean, they need to have courage and confidence in doing this. They need to show people we care about security. We're allowing these people to have a go at finding something before the real hackers can. Confidentiality they were worried about. We have lots of layers of legal frameworks, so don't underestimate this. This takes a long time to sort out as well. And we have a dedicated legal group who know this law inside and out. But on top of that, you need one with your bug bounty platform, and you need one with the one that the ethical hackers will sign up to, and ones that the targets need as well. They needed to have, for confidentiality, we showed them that we would have this verified ID because they would be Belgian citizens only, so they could rest assured. And most of the people, not all, were known to our triage group already because they dealt with them for other vulnerabilities that they had reported. So reassure is better that these ethical hackers find the vulnerabilities before someone else does. So while they say, oh, you might find something, yeah, of course, so can someone else. To address the concerns about, their third concern was extra work. So we said that there's no service level agreement on bug fixes. What you need to do is you need to actually roll it into your releases. And if it's a critical infrastructure one, there's certain procedures that you need to follow. And it will help you with how you do your backups and your restoring and your monitoring. So that extra work, it's better to do it while it's a calm time and it's not real. And their fourth concern was downtime. And we chose never to gloss over any of the horrible things that can happen with this. We gave them no empty promises. Yeah, the chance isn't non-zero. There's potentially a hacker could do something which could bring your systems down. But on the bright side, it's good practice in resilience. We had a really short feedback loop. So our triagers, when they saw something come in or they heard something was going on or they saw something on the Discord channel, would be able to contact the target organization immediately because they had capabilities that were in-house, which we would be able to discuss with the issue. We would monitor all of the reports that came in, and we realized that was really essential because the hacker doesn't always realize what the bigger significance for some things were. And we explained to these targets that each finding is a vulnerability that can't be exploited anymore. Vulnerabilities are not created by hackers, they're discovered. They existed yesterday, and they probably existed last week. Will they still exist tomorrow? That we can have some control over. You can stop a breach before it happens with their help. The targets don't always realize that this is the closest to a real incident that they could get without the harm. It's not a tabletop exercise. It's a real test of their procedures. And it was free, and it was a high quality security assessment. One of the descriptions one of my colleagues said is when you have a pen tester basically does a ring fence check, goes around, tries a whole bunch of different things around the edges. but an ethical hacker will find a small thread that's a little loose, and they might just start pulling on it, and they'll just concentrate on that. And getting that kind of penetration testing, you can't buy it easily, not unless you have a bug bounty program. And of course, the federal government doesn't have bug bounty programs, at least not yet. Now, the ethical hackers were the most important thing for us for this event of Hack the Government. You need to show that you understand them. So I'd like you to take a look at that little round logo in the bottom corner of my slide. Looks like well, it is an iron atom. And those of you who know Belgium at all, it is a symbol of our atomium, but not copyrighted, like because there's no stands in it. So it's just an iron atom. And there are certain balls in that logo that are colored. That is part of a hacker subculture message. It's an emblem that they use to represent themselves. It comes from Conway's Game of Life, which was developed in 1970. It's called a glider. It's one of the smallest spaceships that he created with his mathematical, for those of you who don't know. And it became the subculture emblem because it's emerged around the same time as Unix and the internet came out. So the next thing we also did was we supplied them with Club Mate. It's the oil of European hacking. It's a caffeine-rich drink based on mate from South America, but it's made into a fizzy drink in Germany somewhere. And if you have that, it shows that you understand this group, at least in Belgium and countries surrounding us. You need to have posters for the brag wall. We also got our hackers to sign each of the posters for as many targets as we had. So we had to sign 4 posters. We framed them, and we gave those to the targets. But we also gave one to every single hacker who was there. It's a bit of their brag wall. They this one actually has quite a few Easter eggs in it. The one that's standing behind me, I don't know how well you can see it, but it has a bunch of Easter eggs in it. It has Belgium's motto, which is unity makes strength, and it's done in all 3 languages. It has find a bug, report a bug in it there as well. We also created, and I will have a little bit of show and tell for you. We also created a challenge coin. And it was just a very, very simple challenge coin. It was simple because I was told about it about 4 weeks before I needed to have it, so I didn't really have much time. And we thought we were hysterical. We came up with a slogan at the bottom of it, which is Vini Vidi Reportavi. For those of you who have not studied Latin, it means I came, I saw, I reported. And on the back, it says ethical contributor. And we decided to make one for everybody who attended, just because of the fact that it would be a limited collector's edition, and we appreciated their help. We didn't want to make it so that just a few within the group for this particular thing came along. We also created some t-shirts. For BrewCon, we had our staff wear a t-shirt that said on the back of it, our web addresses end with .be, which is quite convenient for us. And what it says is .be, so be a state-supported hacker. And then it has all of the small print on the back end as well. So for Hack the Government, we created I am a state-supported hacker t-shirt for them. We also made sure that the venue and the food showed that we understood the evolving needs of hackers, of ethical hackers. So gone were pizza and beer, which don't get me wrong, pizza and beer are great, but we had more options. We included healthy food, we included dietary restrictions. We understood people didn't want to necessarily sit down and eat, but some may. And we made it so that they had grab and go options all day long while they were in the event in person. We had to find a suitable venue. This is not always easy. We had to double check its connectivity. We had to make sure it had good security, and we had to have welcoming workspaces. We ended up finding a building that had a ground floor that we could reserve for food and drink and for socializing. We had a top floor where we had the presentations and the awards ceremony at the in-person event at the very end. And we had a floor in between where the work area was. And we made it so that it could be, there were several small offices so you could work alone. You could work as a group in some other meeting rooms. You could just work in this one big hall we had with a bunch of tables where they could rearrange whatever way they wanted, so it could be companionable. We had some sofas so they could be laid back. We had some really nice office chairs so they could be in an office, and they could rearrange it and make it their own. The location was central-ish to Belgium. It was near Brussels. It was within walking distance to a train station, but we also added a shuttle bus because we were worried about people carrying expensive equipment in the dark. And it was November, it could be icy, it could be dangerous to slip and fall. And we also made sure for those who were camera shy to give them different lanyards. In the meantime, sponsors had stepped up, unbeknownst to most of those people who had registered their interest initially on that lovely typewriter I showed you. The motivation increased because the best sponsorship we received was a fully paid SANS course, including an exam. For those of you who don't know, SANS conducts world-class cybersecurity training and accreditation and is recognized globally. A lot of people can get a job just based on passing a SANS course. Many other organizations provided prizes for the event too, but and no less generous, but that one was what we decided to use as our highest prize. We ended up with two prize streams because we also had a set of student prizes. We decided to provide them with, give me a moment, it's Portswigger, but it's name of its product. Oh, sorry, it's gone right out of my head. It helps people to scan things. I'll remember. Burp Pro. We gave them the Burp Pro suite. We also, for the student prize, our grand prize for that was a 4-month internship with a well-respected Belgian cybersecurity company called Torian. The prizes were not the main focus. We didn't make any publication really about them. They were just a nice to have. You need to show appreciation. So if you've never been an organizer for something like this, what goes on behind the curtains? Well, it took months to coordinate. Johan spent days and nights setting up the scope, ensuring it was engaging and enticing. And as a hacker himself, he also did a little bit of testing to see if it would have any interest for people. So he would say things like, a fully patched Drupal website is not going to be interesting for these people. It has to have connectivity and interaction and stuff of interest. He also then spent quite a few late nights during the event itself, encouraging and helping participants. And our own triage team assessed all the reports, and he was the head of that, so he had to do that as well. It was exhausting. We did not account for just how many reports we would get and how important it was to make sure we assessed what was going on the Discord channel, just in case we wanted to make sure it would never get nasty. We had some show and tell sessions arranged. We had all of the little things that showed their appreciation to their contribution, but the real challenge were the target scopes. And that was where the biggest effort needed to be taken. Creating the scope, working out how to time the releases, conducting the launch briefs, all the while needing to triage, manage the participants, manage the targets, communicate on Discord, and still have an engaging event was eye-opening for us. There were only 5 of us who were the core group at this point. So finally, we have arrived. 15 days. Final day is going to be in person. Wednesday, 9 o'clock in the morning on day 1, we have a kickoff call. We didn't think that one through quite right because it was within office hours and school hours. Oops. Do not do it during the day. Apparently, the normal time to do it is at 7 p.m. at night. All comms were done through the Discord server. We posted updates there. We had information there. We would field questions there, and so on. The hackers made it their own. They really started to create teams in the Discord server. They would discuss findings. They'd start helping each other. They would coach students. They taught techniques. They provided tips and tricks. They had amazing support and cooperation. And some of them would even try and guide the students to find something that they had already found, which is quite safe for them. And it helped them learn as well. And it brought them up the slope of learning. If there was an issue, we had to ask them to throttle back on particular areas while it got sorted out. And for that, they were actually really respectful. We had one issue where we did actually have to ask them to step away from the organization and give us a couple of days to sort it. It was over a weekend. Government doesn't work over a weekend. And they were really respectful of that. Johan ran scope releases. He had regular briefing calls. He would emphasize the importance of staying beyond reproach to all of these people. The significance of Hack the Government was that you had to use your own ID credentials. In Europe, we have identity cards, and many areas, if they wanted to test, needed to use that and not an account. So it's not like testing with your Amazon.com account. We had offered VPN use. And then in the end, we got them to all try and use the VPN whenever they could, so that if a organization was finding that they were getting swamped, they could turn that off and see what other traffic was still coming through. One of the guys was really cunning. He actually went to the company that created the one of the APIs that he was investigating and requested the specs for it. And this came back to me as hey, is this guy yours? And so I said, well, if it's generally available information, why not give it to him? And, a little tick mark for ingenuity on his part. And the targets that we had, one of them was so fast in detection and patching during the event, we ended up having to contact them to ask them if the unpatched version did indeed show the vulnerability that had been submitted. I'm getting close. The final day arrived. Participation meant in this organization, in this event, if you agreed to participate, you had to attend in person on the last day. We had to have a clear schedule. No one knew what to expect. Will anyone come? We had badges ready, and only authorized people could enter the building. And people did arrive, much to our glee in the end. And Jean-Luc kicked off the day with a welcome. Now we're going to go into a series of photos. We had the press show up, way more than we ever expected, and the ethical hackers agreed to be filmed and photographed, even the ones who were reluctant to earlier. If you have a woman who's attending as an ethical hacker, try not to trot her out like a dog and pony show as well. So you had to be really careful of that. The closing of the event saw show and tell. The supplier of our platform, Inti, did a magic show. And then our CCB director, Miguel de Breker, presented the awards for the professionals and also to the 4 target organizations with their posters. And the deputy director, Phaedra Clowner, she gave the rewards and the prizes to the students. And suddenly, much to our surprise, our prime minister showed up. And this is where appreciation at the highest level was shown. He attended the award ceremony personally and wanted to give the grand prize to the winner. I convinced him that he also wanted to give the challenge coins to every single participant with a handshake and congratulations, which he did. And he took the time out to actually talk to these guys. And for those of you who know, challenge coins can be extra special for a lot of people. So I can imagine that this one is going to be one that they dine out on for a very long time to come. They'll be able to pick out all of from their array of challenge coins and say, this is the one that was given to me by my prime minister, with thanks. That was kind of cool. So the event was closed. That was the end of Hack the Government 2024. Or was it? No, it took on a life of its own. The press began. It picked up momentum. It was on both of our language news stations and primetime news. In the days and the weeks to come, there was more media coverage from TV, papers, magazines, via social media. It went international. We had coverage in France, the Netherlands, and even as far as afield as New Zealand. In early December, our Minister of Foreign Affairs presented Hack the Government to an open-ended working group at the UN, which kind of blew us away that it was getting so much traction. The educational institutions were quite reluctant in the beginning to give us names, celebrated their students' participation in the event in articles and social media. And the winner, Raba, who's a nice young 24 years old, went on a media tour. He had podcasts, interviews, press. He became a really sought-after speaker. So unexpected results? Well, the unexpected results were because we didn't know what to expect. We had a core of active and productive participants, but 1/3 of them were not active at all. You can always expect something like this because they have other commitments or they get sick. Flu season was in full swing for us. One run that we really didn't expect was that they shared and they coached and they mentored and they encouraged each other. So much so we were thinking that we might need to offer a team prize if we can for something like that. The feedback we got from them is they felt seen. That's all they said. We felt seen. The highlights, they said, were the interactions on Discord, the communication with us, the CCB, the other hackers, the guidance that was given, and meeting in person. And of course, being recognized by their prime minister. But the one thing that came up again and again and again is they said they felt useful to society. It was a huge effort, and boy, did that ever pay off, though, hearing those words. It is way more time consuming than you expect. Even arguments over what CVSS version you're going to analyze your report assessments with became a bit of a problem within the triage team. But you have to pick one, you have to stick with it, and you have to fairly assess any severity that you get in. Crowd management and engagement is necessary, and this was a key factor for helping us build a closer community. And you also need to consider how you're going to manage your targets. The 15 days delivered us with 154 reports. Of those 154 reports, 85 were validated vulnerabilities, ranging from low to crucial. So our biggest fear of no one finding anything was wrong from the beginning. We received four reports in the first 3 hours of it opening. We have a CVE that was found in a security product rated 8.8. It was directly attributed to hack the government. It was published in December, 12th of December, 2024, and it credits Bob Vandersmissen, the researcher who found it, and Hack the Government. And we were even acknowledged for our collaboration to help solve this vulnerability. And it's in an Arctic Hub URL mapper for those who might be interested, but you can also go and look this up. CCB proved the need to have all of the tools in our toolbox, including ethical hackers. It means better protection of digital assets. You don't need a big budget to gain substantial rewards by engaging with your community of ethical hackers. What we do note, though, is just a small piece of advice. Having a legal framework, while difficult and time-consuming, to make it a reality is a key instrument for facilitating ethical hacking. And we are now preparing for the second edition of Hack the Government. It's really shown the power of small beginnings. But as they say in a Chinese proverb, there are many paths up the mountain, but the view from the top is always the same. So there's no one way to do this. And never forget that small actions can lead to really big results. And this was just our story and how we made it happen. If I have time, which I'm not sure, I can take questions.
Any questions from participants in the room?
Do y'all plan to open it up internationally, and do you expect that to complicate it a lot?
Do you mean the law?
Both kind of, because it seemed like your law was kind of exclusive to just Belgium citizens, correct?
Correct.
If your the convention you mentioned has a lot of Japanese nationals coming to visit, if they're not protected by that, don't you think that's going to kind of discourage them from participating?
No. If they're going after assets in Belgium while they're in Belgium, they are covered by that law. What we are trying to do right now is actually expand our law to, at this point, just cover other EU nationals who are outside of Belgium. But if they're hacking a Belgian organization or Belgian-held assets that are sitting in the space of the country, then we would also be able to protect those people as well, because it would be those organizations that would be trying to go after the hacker that's outside of it. But not at this point internationally, just so far within the EU. But if you're in Belgium, come on over, give it a hack.